Hi, my name is Michael, and lately my life has been like a roller coaster, ups and downs, and you never know what's waiting around the next turn. And yet, not so long ago, everything was so stable and predictable, even boring, damn it. My wife Emily and I have been living in a small town in Ohio for about 5 years. We got married right after college, bought a cozy house in a quiet suburb, got a dog named Buddy. Emily works as a manager at a large company and always spends a lot of time at the office. Sometimes she jokes that I see her less often than her colleagues. And I'm a freelancer, a programmer, working from home. So most of the time I spend alone, not counting Buddy, of course. The only variety in our life is brought by visits from my mother-in-law, Catherine. She lives a couple of hours' drive from us and often comes for the weekends. And you know, I always look forward to her visits. Catherine is interesting to talk to. She has a great sense of humor and a lot of fascinating stories in store. Not like my boring Emily, whose conversations lately have only been about work. By the way, in the years of marriage, I still couldn't fully understand how my dry wife could be born to such a bright, passionate person as Catherine. This woman in her 50s will give any 30-year-old a run for her money in terms of energy and love of life. Always fashionably dressed, watches her figure, keeps up with all the news and trends, and no boring moralizing typical of most women her age. In general, my life flowed quietly and steadily until one day Catherine came to us with an unexpected proposal. It was from this moment that all the madness began. But first things first, it was a typical Saturday evening. Emily, as always, was delayed at work, and Catherine and I were sitting in the kitchen chatting over a glass of wine. We talked about all sorts of things, laughed at silly jokes, remembered the good old days. And then Catherine suddenly says, "Listen, Michael, I have a proposition for you, even a request." I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Catherine rarely asked for anything, preferring to manage on her own. "Shoot, Cat, you know I can't refuse you," I grinned. "I'll hold you to that," Catherine laughed. "The thing is, I've started this charity event. You know, raising funds for a homeless animal shelter and all that, but I'm afraid I can't handle it alone. Would you help me with the organization?" "Oh, that's very noble of you, Cat," I admired. "No, seriously, I was impressed. My mother-in-law knows how to surprise. Of course I'll help. What needs to be done?" And Catherine began to enthusiastically expound her idea. A grand charity evening was planned, with an auction, lottery, performances by local stars, and other entertainment. All the funds raised will go to the needs of the shelter: new enclosures, food, treatment for the animals. Listening to Catherine, I gradually became imbued with her idea. After all, I can't just sit at home in front of the computer all the time. It would be great to do something useful, and in such pleasant company. Again, when else will I get the chance to mingle with the local beau monde and maybe make some useful connections? "You know what, Cat? I'm in," I declared decisively when my mother-in-law finished her fiery speech. "Let's throw the best charity party in the history of this town." Catherine beamed and spontaneously kissed me on the cheek. I nearly choked on my wine from the surprise. "Thanks, Mikey. You're a real friend. You'll see, we'll work great together." Oh yes, how right she was. Although at the time I couldn't even imagine how closely we would have to work together. Silly, naive Mikey. For the next couple of weeks, Catherine and I were immersed in preparing for the event. We met almost every day, discussed details, argued until we were hoarse, and laughed like teenagers. I never thought organizing a party was such a fascinating quest, especially when your partner is none other than the daredevil Cat. During this time, I learned a lot of new things about my mother-in-law. For example, that in her youth she was quite a wild one, hung out at rock concerts, dyed her hair purple, and even had problems with the police. It was hard to imagine the elegant Mrs. Sullivan as a rebellious teenager, but damn, how it suited her. I also found out that Cat and I have surprisingly a lot in common. The same specific sense of humor, love for old comedies, and spicy Mexican cuisine. And we both had our hearts broken and dreams shattered at one time. Mine about a perfect marriage, and hers about a career as a photographer. "If you only knew, Mikey, how I dreamed of traveling the world with a camera at the ready," Cat would sigh when we stayed up past midnight over guest lists and menus. "To capture unique shots, meet amazing people, live a bright, fulfilling life." So what stopped you, I wondered? Why didn't you throw everything to hell and rush towards your dream? Ah, you know how it goes, Catherine smiled sadly. Marriage, a child, everyday life. Somehow everything started spinning, twirling, but I don't regret choosing family. Emily is my greatest achievement in life. Yes, Emily. When mentioning my wife in conversations with Catherine, I felt some kind of strange awkwardness, as if we were doing something wrong behind her back. Although what nonsense. Think about it, spending time with my mother-in-law, helping in a good cause. What's the big deal? I'm sure Emily would only approve of our collaboration, or not. Sometimes I would catch strange looks from my wife after another phone conversation with Kat. Bewilderment, irritation, and something else I couldn't define. Jealousy? No way! Why would Emily be jealous of me with her own mother? However, I tried not to think about it too much. I was completely absorbed in the process of preparing for the event. And, let's face it, in communicating with Catherine, everything else faded into the background. Work, friends, even Buddy. The dog seemed to start resenting my inattention. It's okay, we'll make up for it later. For now, great things awaited me. And then the long-awaited day X arrived. A charity evening at the most luxurious hotel in the city. Hundreds of guests, champagne flowing like water, music and laughter. Catherine and I were running around like crazy, greeting important big shots, ironing out the last organizational issues, making sure everything was going according to plan. I must say, my mother-in-law looked stunning. A tight-fitting red dress, perfect hair and makeup, shining eyes, every inch a Hollywood diva at the Oscars. Next to her, I felt like an awkward oaf, even though I seemed to have dressed up for the occasion. At one point, catching me at the bar, Kat clinked her champagne glass with a smile. Well, partner, it looks like we did it. Everyone is just delighted. We might even break the record for fundraising. You bet, I grinned, feeling extremely pleased with myself. We make a great team, Kat. Maybe we should start some kind of business together, huh? Mike and Catherine's party planning agency. How does that sound? My mother-in-law laughed, playfully slapping me on the shoulder. Dream on, cowboy. This was a one-time thing. My main job is to get on sons-in-law's nerves and spoil my grandchildren. Speaking of which, when are you and Emily going to make me happy with offspring, huh? I choked on my champagne. Well, she got me good. And she knows that for Emily and me, this topic is like a red rag to a bull. How many times have we discussed it? Argued, even went to a family psychologist. I'm for it. Emily is categorically against it. Career comes first, you see. And I, by the way, have always dreamed of a big family. But try to convince our businesswoman. Apparently, my suffering was reflected on my face, because Catherine suddenly stroked my hand and sighed sympathetically. Sorry, Mikey. I know it's a sore subject for you. I shouldn't have said that. It's just, you'd make a great father. Emily doesn't even realize what she's missing out on. My eyes stung. Damn, I can't start crying now. To hide my unwanted emotions, I mockingly bowed and held out my hand to Kat. Milady, would you do me the honor of dancing with me? They say I'm pretty good at impersonating Patrick Swayze. My mother-in-law accepted the invitation with a laugh, and we began to whirl in a waltz to a romantic melody. I don't know what it was, the champagne, the festive atmosphere, or those strange sparks that had long been flying between me and Catherine. But my head was spinning like crazy. My mother-in-law pressed closer and closer to me, enveloping my neck with her hot breath and tickling my chest. At some point, I forgot where I was and who I was. There were only the two of us, the music, and the crazy, frenzied desire. And then Catherine suddenly froze and looked into my eyes with a mischievous challenge. Well, maybe we should continue in a more private setting. There are some nice rooms here, I can arrange it. I think I mumbled something incoherent, nodding and letting Catherine lead me to the elevators. A single thought pounded in my head. To hell with it all. Now there will be what I've secretly desired for a very long time. I did desire it, didn't I? No sooner had the door of the room closed behind us than Catherine pressed her lips to mine in a greedy kiss. I think we broke and dropped something on the way, whatever. I vaguely remember us falling onto the bed, feverishly undressing each other. I think I tore the clasp on Catherine's dress, and she ripped off half the buttons on my shirt. The kisses became more and more frantic, the caresses more and more explicit. When our bodies finally merged into one, reality ceased to exist altogether. There was only us, intertwined in a wild primal dance, and fireworks exploding behind closed eyelids. I think I was whispering something, breaking into hoarse moans, some nonsense about how long I had wanted this, how Catherine was driving me crazy. And she just whispered back, "More, Mikey. Yes, like that." I don't know how long it lasted. Time seemed to have turned into an endless viscous ribbon. I only remember how we went over the edge again and again, tangled in a hot knot of sweaty bodies and hoarse cries. And then we would fall onto the crumpled sheets, only to start all over again a minute later. At some point I fell asleep, exhausted, drained, and absolutely incredibly happy. The last thing I remember is holding Catherine's warm, relaxed body close to me, burying my nose in her fragrant hair. My cat, now definitely mine. Morning is never kind. Remember that expression? Well, don't believe it. Morning is not unkind. It's simply catastrophic, especially if something out of the ordinary happened the night before. I was awakened by the slamming of the door and a hysterical female scream. Barely opening my eyes, I realized two things with horror. First, Emily was standing in the doorway with a face distorted by anger and pain. And second, in my bed, pressing her whole body against me, lay a completely naked Catherine. Holy shit, we're screwed. "Emily?" I croaked, trying to simultaneously pull up the blanket and move away from Cat. "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" shrieked my better half. There were angry tears in her eyes. "That's what I should be asking you. What the hell are you doing in bed with my mother?" Catherine also woke up from the noise and now blinked in confusion, looking at her daughter. Then she shifted her gaze to me, to our revealing pose, and her face twisted into a grimace of horror and shame. "Emily, honey, it's not what you think," Cat started, trying to cover herself with the edge of the blanket. "Oh, really?" Emily said venomously. "And to me, it's exactly that. My husband and my mother conspired behind my back and got up to hanky-panky. How disgusting!" "Hey, take it easy," I bristled, starting to boil. "Okay, I'm guilty, I admit it, but it's not for her to judge me." "You'd think you're so holy yourself. You're always at work. Not a kind word from you lately? And when I needed support, help, where were you? Cat understood me, helped me." "Oh, so that's how you're singing now," Emily flared up. Tears were already streaming down her cheeks. "So it's all my fault, that my own husband couldn't find anything better to do than to console himself in the arms of my mother? Well, thanks a lot, lovebirds." With those words, she spun around and flew out of the room, slamming the door loudly. Catherine and I were left sitting on the bed, staring at each other in shock. But the very next second, my mother-in-law jumped up and began to dress feverishly, muttering under her breath, "God, what have we done? Emily will never forgive me. What a nightmare." "Cat, wait." I tried to grab her hand to stop her. "Let's talk, discuss everything. We're adults, we can figure it out." "No, Michael." Catherine cut me off, pulling her hand away. There were tears in her eyes. "What happened was a huge mistake. It shouldn't have happened. I can't imagine how I'll face my daughter now. No, I have to leave. I'm sorry." With those words, she ran out of the room, leaving me in complete confusion and with a tangle of conflicting emotions. What do I do now? How do I explain to Emily what happened? And most importantly, how do I sort out the crazy tangle of feelings that was raging inside me right now? I fell back onto the pillows with a groan, covering my face with my hands. So much for charity, damn it, I've really stepped in it now. And something told me that dealing with the consequences would take a very long time. The next few days turned into a real hell for me. Emily announced that she was filing for divorce and moving back in with her mother. However, judging by the information from mutual acquaintances, she didn't go to Catherine either. The latter seemed to have vanished after what happened, not answering calls. I paced around the empty house like a caged animal beside myself. I tried to call both my wife and my mother-in-law, to no avail. Both seemed to have conspired to ignore me. Even Buddy looked at me with mute reproach, like, "What have you done, master?" The worst part was that I couldn't sort out my own feelings. I knew I had screwed up royally, ruined my own marriage and relationships with loved ones. And at the same time, I couldn't forget that crazy night with Catherine, that feeling of absolute euphoria and unity. As if I had found something important that I had been missing all these years, and now I had lost it again. Friends, the ones who hadn't turned away yet, advised me to get a grip, to try to make up with Emily. Like it happens to everyone. Passion fades in marriage over the years, so you're tempted to stray. But if you admit your mistake, repent. Maybe everything will work out. The wife seems to love you. She should understand and forgive. But I myself was no longer sure if I wanted to return to my old life. Yes, I screwed up. I acted like a complete asshole. But maybe it was a sign? A sign that my marriage to Emily had long been cracking at the seams, and a banal affair with my mother-in-law was just the last straw. That for many years I had been living someone else's life, adjusting to other people's expectations and ignoring my own dreams? Tormented by these thoughts, I dialed Catherine's number. I listened to the ringing for a long time, not believing that she would pick up. But suddenly, on the other end, a tired but so familiar voice said, "Michael, why are you calling?" "Kat, we need to talk," I blurted out, afraid that I wouldn't dare. "I know you're avoiding me, but damn, I just can't find a place for myself. We can't just drop everything like this without even trying to figure it out. I think I love you, Catherine." There was a long silence on the phone. Only Catherine's heavy breathing could be heard. Finally, she sighed and said with a bitter chuckle, "Oh, Mikey, what are you doing? No need for sorrow." "Kat, please," I begged. "Let's at least meet, talk frankly, and then whatever happens, happens. I'm begging you." Again, a long pause, and then Catherine suddenly said resolutely, "All right, today at 6 at the same hotel. I hope Emily won't find out, and we can discuss everything calmly." Having agreed on a meeting, I felt as if a multi-ton weight had been lifted from my soul. Maybe not all is lost yet. Maybe together we can find a way out, a solution that will work for everyone. In any case, I have to try. Sitting and feeling sorry for myself is not an option. At the appointed hour, I entered the already familiar hotel, feeling my heart pounding like crazy. Fear, excitement, anticipation, all mixed into some kind of crazy cocktail. As I went up to the right floor, I mentally rehearsed the speech I was going to deliver to Catherine. But as soon as the door of the room opened, all the words flew out of my head at once. Emily was standing on the threshold, pale with eyes red from tears but surprisingly calm. Seeing me, she only smiled bitterly and stepped aside, letting me in. "Come in, since you're here." Not understanding anything, I walked into the room and froze dead in my tracks. Catherine was sitting on the bed with a lost, miserable look. Next to her stood an open suitcase. What does all this mean?" I finally found my voice. "Haven't you figured it out yet?" Emily snorted, sitting down in a chair and crossing her arms over her chest. "I know everything, Michael. About your little dirty secret, and about your meeting today, too." I went cold inside. How? How did she find out? Was she following me? Hacked my correspondence? However, what difference does it make now? "Emily, listen," I began, taking a step towards my wife. "I know you're hurt, you're angry with me, and you have every right to be. I'm guilty before you, very guilty, but what happened? It's not just an affair. Your mom and I think we have feelings for each other." Emily raised her eyebrows and shifted her gaze to Catherine. The latter shrank on the bed, lowering her head. Well, feelings you say? And you, Mom, do you think so too?" Catherine was silent, crumpling the edge of the bedspread in her hands. I saw her shoulders trembling and barely restrained myself from rushing to her, from embracing her, but I understood that it would be inappropriate now. "Well," Emily said after a pause in an even, colorless voice, "in that case, I think it would be better if you left, both of you, right now." "What?" I was taken aback. "What do you mean leave? Where?" "Anywhere," my wife shrugged. There was such pain in her eyes that I felt physically ill. "Since you have such a great love, you'll be fine anywhere, and there's no place for you here anymore. I won't be able to see you every day and remember what happened between you. It's better for you to disappear from my life." "But Emily," Catherine pleaded, finally lifting her tear-stained face. "Baby girl, forgive me. I didn't mean to. I didn't think it would turn out like this. I beg you, don't send me away. Give me a chance to fix everything." "You can't fix anything." Emily cut her off, and then I realized she was right. Catherine and I had destroyed everything we had. It was naive to think that I could just easily return to my old life as if nothing had happened. Or that Emily would be able to put up with my presence, constantly tormented by thoughts of whether I had spent another night with her mother. No, it's time to grow up and accept the consequences of my actions. I screwed up. I have to deal with it. And if the only way I can ease Emily's suffering is to get out of her life, well, I guess that's the right thing to do. "Okay," I said hoarsely, lowering my head. "You're right, Emily. We can't stay here. Too much has happened between us, and hasn't happened. I'm sorry I ruined our family. You didn't deserve this." My wife pressed her lips together and turned away. I saw her shoulders tense as if she was holding back sobs with the last of her strength. I wanted to go to her, hug her, comfort her, but I had lost that right. Now my place was next to someone else. Walking over to Catherine, I held out my hand to her. She looked up at me with a confused, tear-filled gaze. "Let's go, Cat. It's time for us." Catherine took a shaky breath, cast one last pleading look at her daughter. But Emily didn't even stir, staring at the wall with frozen eyes. And then Cat resolutely rose, put her hand in mine, squeezing it almost to the point of pain. Together we left the room, the hotel, our past life, into the unknown. In the car, we were silent for a long time. What is there to say? We both understood what we had gone through, what we still had to go through, but we could no longer turn back, only forward. "And what now?" Catherine finally asked in a colorless voice. Outside the window, the dreary landscapes of provincial Ohio were rushing by. "Now we start a new life," I shrugged, trying to make my voice sound cheerful. "We'll go somewhere far away, find a job, we'll do some renovations." I nodded at her suitcase with a chuckle. "And then, who knows? Maybe you'll even remember your dream of becoming a photographer." Catherine smiled sadly, shaking her head. But for the first time since the exposure, there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes, as if she really believed that we had a chance to start over. We drove on in silence, each lost in thought. I frantically replayed the events of recent months in my head, trying to understand at what point everything in my life had gone head over heels. And was the relationship with Catherine worth what I had lost? A cozy home, sweet buddy, my favorite job, and most importantly, the woman I once loved more than life, and whose heart I had broken myself. I can't say that I regretted what happened. After all, nothing in life is accidental. Emily and I had probably drifted apart long ago. I just preferred not to notice it. And the affair with Catherine opened my eyes to many things. Now I know exactly what I want out of life, and who I want to see by my side. Was this decision easy for me? Of course not. Losing your family and your old life is damn painful, but it would be even more painful to live a lie, deceiving yourself. It's cowardly to cling to the familiar and the known, afraid to take a risk and try something new. Yes, I screwed up. I stumbled. I hurt my loved ones. But you can't eternally wallow in self-flagellation and regrets. It's time to accept what happened and move on. To build new relationships, a new life, now consciously choosing the path and the companion, and to believe that everything will work out. The future is unknown for Catherine and me, a multitude of open doors that have yet to be flung open. Yes, it's scary as hell, but at the same time, it's so exciting and inspiring. Maybe we did make a crazy, illogical move, but it's the first truly serious choice in my life when I finally listened to my heart. And my heart beats in unison with the heart of the one sitting next to me now, the one and only for whom I am ready to go through any difficulties. A mature, strong woman who has taught me many important things. And the main one is that it's never too late to start over. As long as we have each other, have our love, we can overcome anything. We will build a new life from scratch, and we will write a new story on it. Sad, funny, bitter, happy, our own story, which is just beginning. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.